What is the truth about the Bitcoin halving? Welcome back, everyone. Figured that we would do a really quick clip for today about the Bitcoin halving because, of course, we've got to dispel some FUD. By the time you guys see this clip, I record this on Thursday. It's going to drop tomorrow on Friday, and most likely we will be a few hours from the actual halving or halvening event. Now, let's talk about some FUD. So, when it comes to the Bitcoin halving, there's I believe that there's two main types of FUD. Okay. The first one is that the amount of Bitcoin that is currently in circulation, or to make it more relative and personal, the amount of Bitcoin, let's say, that you have accumulated, all of a sudden, starting from block 840,000, all of a sudden, you'll have half as much Bitcoin. So if you're a G and you have 2 Bitcoin, well, guess what? Now you're going to have 1. That's not true. Okay, that's not how that works. Okay, the other major piece of FUD that comes out around this time, which also serves, by the way, to help shill less than desirable products in Bitcoin and around the space, is the miner death spiral. Okay, now essentially the miner death spiral, what that has to do with is that because every 10 minutes a Bitcoin block is mined. Currently, okay, approximately every 10 minutes, 6.25 new BTC enter the current supply. It enters the market. Now, as of block 840,000, that reward gets cut down by half and becomes 3.125. So it means that every new block that is mined, the reward in it, the new Bitcoin that is in that block, is going to be 3.125, which is half of 6.25. So this is where we get into the whole miner death spiral. And this is where altcoiners, shitcoiners, whatever you want to call them, this is where they can play tricks on noobs that don't quite understand and may not have enough confidence in Bitcoin. They can end up fooling you. Now, so this is how it works, right? All of a sudden, the miners are going to have half as much of a reward. So they're all going to stop mining. Well, what happens if they stop mining? Well, that's it. The Bitcoin transactions don't go through. And the people who are running nodes, they're not validating any transactions anymore. They're validating less, right? There's no more miners. So what happens? Well, the whole entire network begins to cave in on itself. I remember the first time I heard this, okay? When I first got into the space, I heard the miner death spiral FUD, and I'm not going to lie. I did not understand anything about Bitcoin. And I'm not going to pretend that I understand leaps and bounds above what I understood back then, but I definitely have a lot more confidence in what I know today. And back then I didn't. So when I heard this, I was like, oh boy. I'm like, this is bad. This is why you got to stay away from these things. And hey, look, I fooled myself, right? I fooled myself. I sold my Bitcoin in fear, okay? And obviously we had our halving, and obviously nothing happened. And obviously I felt like a fool. So I had to learn a bit more about it. Now, one chart that really helped me gain confidence in what I thought I knew about the Bitcoin network, and more specifically, the miners' incentives, was the cumulative hash rate chart. You can see over here on blockchain.com, this is the total hash rate. And take a look, guys. We've already had several halvings. How come the hash rate just keeps going up? This is crazy. It's almost like miners are incentivized to continue mining Bitcoin. So there's multiple dynamics at play here, okay? So number one, you've got these miners that have invested, right? They've invested in all of this mining hardware, okay? Now, some of these miners obviously have borrowed money in order to keep their mining operation going. They are not incentivized to sell Bitcoin at a loss. They are not, okay? If they do this, it is because they have absolutely no choice. Okay. So that, again, this is my opinion from what I've seen and what I know of miners. Like they are just not incentivized to sell at a loss. So that's the first part. The second part has to do with supply shock. Now, something amazing about Bitcoin is this, right? There's only 21 million Bitcoin, as we know, okay, or 20.9999999 whatever, okay? So that's all there is. So what ends up happening is that these miners, okay, they understand that after the halvening event, after each halvening event, there's going to be a reduction in the amount of supply that is, I should say, new supply of Bitcoin that comes onto the market daily. Now, if the demand continues to increase, this is going to put massive amount of pressure on the supply of Bitcoin, which also essentially is conducive to number go up. It's obvious, right? If there's more demand than there is supply, right? Like free market dynamics, well, what happens? The cost of whatever it is that is being demanded will incrementally rise. So in previous cycles, we've heard the story, oh, the institutions are coming, blah, 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 all this stuff. And as much as we sit there and we shit on the institutions, we shit on the BlackRocks, we shit on all this shitcoining stuff that comes to Bitcoin, and I do too. Yeah, I'm not just saying like, you're the one doing this. No, I do this all the time too, right? We're all humans. So the reality is, though, is that the demand for Bitcoin has only been increasing, but yet the supply of Bitcoin is only decreasing. So you do the math. The miners are incentivized to accumulate their Bitcoin and hold it. And if they sell it, they only will sell it under the conditions, or at least this is what I believe. They only end up selling it in the conditions where they absolutely must, or they feel that they're getting a good price, right? A good fiat USD exchange for their Bitcoin. So this idea of a miner death spiral, total bullshit. Now, the last piece of the miner death spiral is the difficulty adjustment. So what do you think happens, right? Like the difficulty right now is super, super high. What do you think happens if half the miners drop off? Well, guess what? In about, I think it's 2016. Is it every 2016 blocks? Pretty sure. I'll go back and check. There's a difficulty adjustment. It takes place approximately every 2 weeks. So what's going to happen? The difficulty adjustment is going to rev down, right? That number is going to drastically drop. And then all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden what happens is the miners, right? The miners who withstood this pain and stayed online, well, all of a sudden, it just got a little bit easier for them to mine Bitcoin, right? Because essentially the difficulty adjustment went down and it now reflects the current hash rate and the current number of miners that are actually mining Bitcoin. So the miner death spiral FUD, it is total garbage. Guys, like I said, it's a short clip. Most of the people who watch the show are already Bitcoiners, totally understand this. This clip is really for the noobs that have joined the channel and maybe are second guessing themselves as this Bitcoin halvening event comes around. Yeah, I think the last piece I want to add is about the shitcoiners and the altcoiners, just to remind you that they will often use narratives such as, you know, this particular economic activity on Bitcoin is going to save Bitcoin, right? Like that's what the ordinals people, and I remember Udi 6 to 8 months ago was explaining how they saved Bitcoin and stopped the miners from going broke because they brought this shitcoiny thing to Bitcoin. None of that is true, okay? You saw the chart that I showed you for the hash rate. It's going to be in the comments. We didn't have any of this crap in previous cycles, and the miners never stopped mining. Don't get fooled by the FUD. I'll catch you all next week.